Hi, I'm Kimberly Aiken Cockrum. As Miss America, I know that taking care of yourself is important. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. Brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
Coping with COVID and In It Together SC present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Trey Taylor.
Thank you so much for joining us on Coping with COVID. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. And today we are getting you ready for 2022, helping you make and keep your resolutions. Dr. Damon Tweedy, author of the book Black Man in a White Coat, will join us along with James Patrick, the fitness guru with Aspire Wellness. We'll also talk to Jane Tennis about the Best Chance Network for Women with Cancer. But thank you so much, Ms. Tennis, so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. But first, Dr. Jane Kelly, Assistant State Epidemiologist, joins us to talk about the new Omicron variant found in South Carolina. Dr. Kelly, the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control is holding a briefing at this hour right now to discuss the news that MUSC has confirmed the first 3 known cases of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 in the state. This after the collection was tested on December 4th. Now, all 3 cases were in the Low Country, Charleston, North Charleston, and Johns Island, and were from 2 people who were fully vaccinated and 1 with only 1 dose of the vaccine. Dr. Kelly, thank you again so much for joining us today. What does this mean for the rest of the state?
Well, it's not a surprise that Omicron is here. I mean, it's been in Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, basically in many countries around the world. It's inevitable that it was going to arrive in South Carolina. I think the most important things to remember about Omicron is, number one, we have good evidence that it spreads even more quickly than Delta. And you remember the surge that we had when Delta first arrived in August and September, because it is more contagious. Well, Omicron spreads even more easily than Delta. But it does not necessarily cause worse disease. We know that from looking at the experience in other countries. For example, in South Africa, Omicron within 2 weeks went from being only a handful of cases to being almost 90% of the new infections in South Africa, and yet their hospitalizations did not skyrocket. There was some evidence that it spreads more quickly, but not evidence that causes more severe disease. But as you just pointed out, those 3 people, those 3 new cases of Omicron were among people who were either fully vaccinated or had a single dose of vaccine. What does that mean to us? Number one, I guess I'm counting a lot today, but first of all, I don't want people to lose, their trust of vaccines. Vaccines still do work. Right. What do? They cut your chance of having severe disease. So, it does decrease your chance of getting COVID, even Omicron, not as well as it did with Delta, but getting your 2-dose series, the full vaccination, plus a booster dose. That booster dose really raises your antibody levels and can provide you that extra boost, to prevent hospitalization, keep you out of the hospital, out of the morgue.
Yeah. So, all right. So it spreads quicker, but it doesn't affect you as severely, basically.
As far as we know, this is preliminary information, but as far as we know, looking at the experience of what's happening in other countries where this has become the predominant variant, it doesn't look like it causes more severe disease. However, if you increase the number of people who have COVID, inevitably you're going to increase the number of people who also end up in the hospital. So it
Yeah.
is very much worthwhile to get vaccinated and get back. If you're not vaccinated now, to go ahead and start getting vaccinated. There is vaccine available for people age 5 years and up.
Yeah. So, Dr. Kelly, it spreads quicker. Do we know how these three people got it, contracted it?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. But like I said, it's just an hour away from Colombia, you know.
Well, and again, knowing how quickly it is spreading throughout the rest of the country, I think it's just a matter of a short time before we start finding it elsewhere in
Right.
South Carolina.
And your advice remains the same, which is people just need to make sure they are vaccinated.
Well, I'll give a little uptick to that advice, and that is an even stronger recommendation around booster. Because yes, Omicron spreads more easily. However, if you get a booster dose, you can help to mitigate that. You can help soften that blow of spreading more easily and keep yourself from developing severe disease. We have booster doses for everyone age 16 and up. So if it's been 6 months since your last dose of a vaccine for COVID-19, get your booster. It is worthwhile in the face of Omicron to get your booster.
All right. All right. We're talking to Dr. Jane Kelly with the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. At this hour, they are doing a press conference about the 3 cases of the Omicron variant that were found in South Carolina. All 3 cases were in the Low Country. So, Dr. Kelly, how will people know that they may have Omicron?
The symptoms with the Omicron are very similar to the symptoms you would get with any of the other variants. Fatigue, shortness of breath, cough, fever. Some people will be aching all over. There's also that unusual symptom, loss of taste or smell, but that's rare. That doesn't occur in most people. Most people will have fatigue, aching all over, that sort of thing. Some people will have no symptoms, and that's one of the important recommendations, especially this time of year when people are traveling or getting together with non-household members. Consider getting tested, even if you feel fine. Even if you don't know that you've had any exposure, before you get together with grandma, or before you get together with that family that has children under age 5 for whom there is no vaccine, consider getting tested either the day before or the day of. If you can get a home test, you can, a rapid test. If it's negative and you have no symptoms, that would be greatly reassuring. But if you have a positive test, it would be a terrible disservice to get together with others during the holidays.
Yeah.
We're in a better position than we were this time last year. We have vaccine. We have much better access to testing. There are monoclonal antibodies that people can take if they are infected with COVID and want to decrease their chances of ending up in the hospital. So we're in a better place, but people still need to take some precautions.
Yeah, yeah. So, as you said, tis the season. We're right smack dab in the middle of the holidays, 10 days away from the holidays. You're suggesting that people, make sure they go ahead and get tested. What other things? I mean, wear a mask too, right? Go outside, stay outside.
Yes. And, it's for some people, maybe they can't do one thing or another, that they can't imagine, wearing a mask and eating Christmas dinner together. So I think what we need to do is to think of your individual risk, your personal risk for yourself and for your family and the people that you gather with, and to reduce risk where you can. Wear a mask when you're not eating and drinking. If it's nice enough weather to be outdoors, or change your Christmas traditions. Perhaps instead of, for example, gathering together Christmas Day for a dinner, why not visit one of the holiday light shows that might be nearby? That's an outdoors activity. Outdoors is definitely safer than indoors.
Right, right. And going into the new year, we always talk about you and your crystal ball. I know you can't look into the future to tell us what's going to happen, but what are some practices? Because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we didn't know that, we would still be here in 2022, and we're going into COVID 2022, so what should we do? What do we need to do? Just personal choices that we need to make, knowing that, because here's one thing we probably know for sure. COVID's not going to go away before December 31st. We're not going to wake up New Year's Day and everything's gone.
That's right. And I think most experts predict that we're going to have a big surge in January, but hopefully not as big a surge, not as dangerous a surge as we had this time last year. And the reason I say that is because we do have many of our most vulnerable people over age 65 are vaccinated, are fully vaccinated, and many of them have gotten a booster. So the impact that we had last year with so many people in the hospital and people dying from COVID-19, we won't see that. But we may indeed see a surge in the number of cases, especially with Omicron. We even anticipated that before Omicron. But with Omicron, we're certainly going to see a surge of cases. What will happen moving forward after January or February? Well, part of that depends upon people's behavior. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people have abandoned behaviors like wearing masks. But when I talk about behavior, I also mean behavior around getting vaccinated.
Right.
The other thing that we've seen, again, this is through the experience in South Africa and other countries, is that people who had been previously infected with a different variant get reinfected more easily with Omicron. So, I know a number of people feel, oh, I've already had COVID, so I've got natural immunity, I won't get infected again. Well, that is no longer so certain with Omicron. Omicron has what's called escape mutations, that it can escape your immune system. So that doesn't mean vaccine is worthless. That means vaccine is still a valuable tool to reduce your chance of severe disease. But the case is stronger than ever to not just rely on natural immunity. If you had COVID before, you can still get this Omicron variant.
Yeah. So, Dr. Kelly, we have heard in the last few days about some new treatments that have come out that have been approved. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some good news on the horizon. One thing is an expansion of a treatment that we have had for a while, and that's monoclonal antibodies. These are passive antibodies that are made in a laboratory and then can be given to you if you get COVID-19, if you have multiple medical conditions or you're immunocompromised and at greater risk of having severe disease. You can get these monoclonal antibodies. They'll help give you a little bit more strength to fight off infection. The expansion is that now we have monoclonal antibodies that can be given to any age, including newborns. So, for example, imagine an infant under a year of age who has, congenital heart disease or some other medical condition puts them at greater risk if they get COVID. Now we have a treatment for them with monoclonal antibodies. But the other treatments that are coming out very soon are two types of pills. One is called molnupiravir from Merck, and the other is Paxlovid from Pfizer. What these pills do is if you get COVID-19, you have to start these pills within 5 days of testing positive. But what they do is also greatly reduce your chance of ending up with severe disease. Molnupiravir, not as effective. It's about 30% effective in preventing hospitalization, but hey, 30% is something. But the other one, the Pfizer Paxlovid, 90% effective in preventing hospitalization. And this is a pill. These are pills that you take several times a day for 5 days so that you don't have to go to an IV infusion center. It's the sort of thing where a physician can call in a prescription for you. They're not available yet. They probably will be available after the first of the year, maybe a little bit earlier than that, but they're coming soon. The only downside of these pills is that they are not available for all ages. I'm not sure if they will be approved for only 18 and older or whether they'll be approved for a little bit younger than that, but they certainly will not be available for children.
Right, right. And when would a doctor prescribe this? Once you have your symptoms, and then what do you go to the doctor? Um, d- you
You
know,
might not even need to go physically to the doctor. A lot of places are doing telemedicine. So here's what would happen. You have a positive test, you contact your healthcare provider. If you don't have a healthcare provider, well, now would be a good time to establish one so that you have it for the future. But if you have COVID, you test positive, you don't have a healthcare provider, there are still telemedicine providers available, for example, through the Medical University of South Carolina and through Prisma Health. Or you can contact the federally qualified health center near you. There are FQHCs everywhere in every county, everywhere throughout South Carolina. You would contact them and tell them a little bit about yourself. For example, if you have no medical problems and you're young and not overweight, you have a very small chance of progressing to severe disease. So you probably would not need these pills. But if you were older than age 50, if you had several medical problems like diabetes and high blood pressure, then the physician could call in a prescription. So these pills would be, for example, at Walgreens. They would call in a prescription and you could go pick up that prescription. I don't have the details at this time about which Walgreens, where exactly it's
gotcha.
going to be.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
plans are being formulated. And I'm sure in the very beginning, we're not going to have a lot. It's going to be a limited number of doses available.
yeah, yeah.
So
But a doctor, you have to have a doctor. It's not like you could go through one of those drive-through testing places. You find out you've got COVID. You've got to have a doctor for them to prescribe it to you, correct?
at least that is our current plan.
Okay.
That may change.
Right.
But that is our current plan.
And right now, we don't know what that timeline is to when this is actually going to be available.
Certainly, my most conservative statement would be after the first of the year, but it might be earlier than that.
Okay. All right. Dr. Jane Kelly is the assistant epidemiologist with DHEC. She joins us again and is always so gracious and coming on and updating us about COVID-19 20 and now 22. It's the Omicron variant, which if you are just joining us, has been detected 3 cases in South Carolina, all 3 primarily in the Low Country. And she's giving us the update and telling us we've got to continue to mask up. We've got to get that booster shot or get your vaccine, and especially be careful this holiday season. Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you, as always.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Finally, legendary Columbia area basketball coach George Klimp has passed away. During his over 30-decade career, Klimp coached track and field and high school basketball at Eau Claire High School, where he led the team to 5 state championships and also served 10 years in the NBA as a player development executive and assistance coach. Klimp also coached numerous star athletes, among them NBA players Bud Johnson and Jermaine O'Neal, who made headlines in the late 90s when he went straight from high school to the pros. George Klimp was a member of the South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame and the Richland One Hall of Fame. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family, friends, and former students of Coach George Klimp. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and location for COVID testing. Also, COVID shots and COVID vaccines in and around South Carolina. Visit scdhec.gov for more information. Now, listen, if you are a veteran, the VA is taking care of all COVID vaccinations for veterans. You can see that information on the screen. Several retailers are also offering COVID vaccinations for ages 5 through adult. Kroger pharmacies, also CVS offers vaccines at their various locations, including those located in Target stores. Brooklyn Baptist Church has a vaccine clinic that's open 7 days a week. They're part of Lexington Medical Center. You can stop by there. Also, the library is offering not only vaccinations at their Sand Hills locations, but they also offer the free self-test kits at the library. Now, if you're having a challenge getting a ride to get your vaccine, don't miss your shot. The Comet bus system is giving free rides to the Comet, and also at Comet Central on the corner of Sumter and Laurel Street, they also have a vaccine clinic. Now, if you or someone you know is a senior citizen and having some challenges making your COVID vaccination, even though most are a walk-up, you can get online help at Get Set Up. Also, FEMA is continuing their COVID funeral reimbursement if you lost a loved one due to COVID. That service is available to get a reimbursement for funeral expenses and several other financial resources. The South Carolina Bar Association and South Carolina Legal Services has a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. Also, Lexington County has a bill assistance program. SC Housing and Dominion Energy has an assistance program for rent and utilities, as does SC Housing Frontline Workers Home Buying Assistance Program. Excuse me while I cough. I do not have COVID. Just got a little frog in my throat. Get out of there, frog. Ribbit. Also, SC Hopes. If you know someone you know is having some challenges coping with COVID, please contact SC Hopes. It's a 24-hour assistance line for the South Carolina Department of Mental Health. I'm Trey Taylor, and you're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's Wellness Wednesday from the South Carolina In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina. We're actually streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. Not only will you be able to watch Coping with COVID, but man, they got some great resources available and some tips as far as diabetes prevention programs and just keeping yourself and your health up to par. So don't forget to check that out. We're also streaming live on the Tailor Made production page on Facebook. That's the home of Coping with COVID. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. Not only will you be able to watch Coping with COVID Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, but also first Monday with comedian George Wallace. And you can get all of your COVID-related updates and watch former shows. We're also streaming live on YouTube. I want to say hi to all of you YouTubers. Thank you so much for joining us. Please hit the subscribe button. We also have a presence on Instagram and on Twitter. Mitchell Peace Georgian says, get some tea. Well, I've got some water here, Mitchell. I've got my trusty water. I'm a big water drinker. And so thank you. Thank you so much. So listen, we are going to be joined by James Patrick in the next segment. He is going to join us and talk about making and keeping your New Year's resolutions. But right now, we're going to talk to Jane Tennis. She is with South Carolina's Best Chance Network, and she's going to talk to us about a great new program, Ms. Tennis, for women who have cancer or may have cancer, or just women in general. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about the Best Chance Network.
Well, thank you so much for having me this afternoon, Trey. And actually, we're a little bit older than you think. We actually are in our 31st fiscal year of service. Back in 1990, Congress approved the Breast and Cervical Cancer Mortality Prevention Act, which allowed South Carolina to actually be one of the first states in 1991 to receive the 5-year grant through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to provide breast and cervical cancer screenings for women who are residents of South Carolina. There's actually 75 programs. Those are throughout all 50 states of the U.S., territories, and tribes. And all the programs, even though they have 75 different names, they're all aligned with the National Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection Program. And here in South Carolina, we're known as Best Chance Network, and we are part of the Cancer Prevention and Control Division here at DHAC. We actually provide we will cover breast and cervical cancer screening services for women who meet our eligibility. First eligibility is they must be a resident of the state of South Carolina. We have 2 age brackets, 30 to 64 years of age for breast cancer screening and 21 to 64 years of age for cervical cancer screening. And then the household income must be at or below 250% of the federal poverty limit. Mm-hmm. Women who are low income, uninsured, underserved can qualify if they meet the eligibility. And also they can be BCN eligible if they have insurance, if they meet the 3 criteria that I mentioned, and if the insurance either has a deductible of $1,000 or higher, it does not cover screenings and diagnostics at a full 100%, or it will only cover hospitalization. For yearly breast cancer screenings, Best Chance will cover the clinical breast exam or palpated breast exam completed by the medical provider. And if the patient is ages 40 to 64, her yearly screening mammogram, and that can be a 2D or 3D mammography done, it depending on the imaging provider that the patient goes to. And then if unfortunately there's something abnormal on one of those, our program will cover the diagnostic and follow-up services. We do have nurses here at Best Chance that will assist that patient and possibly their medical home provider with navigating that patient for those diagnostic services. And then if unfortunately a patient is diagnosed with breast cancer or cervical cancer, Best Chance does not cover the treatment. We cover everything up to that point, but our nurses can assist the patient with the completion of the breast and cervical cancer program Medicaid application through DHHS. As for cervical cancer screenings on an annual basis, we will cover pelvic exams, HPV tests, and Pap test. We don't cover HPV vaccination. And then, like I said, once again, if there's an abnormal result on any of those that I just mentioned, we will cover the diagnostic and follow-up services, and our nurses can assist that patient into navigating for those services, and then completion of the breast and cervical cancer program Medicaid application if cervical cancer is diagnosed.
Wow. This is Jane Tennis. She's Regional Provider Coordinator Supervisor with the Midlands region for the Division of Cancer Prevention and Control at DHEC. She's been telling us about the Best Chance Network, which this sounds amazing, Ms. Tennis. You know, just the opportunity to provide women with the resources that they need, even if they don't, you know, are in a situation where they don't have insurance or can't get insurance or, you know, are not financially able. And like you said, I mean, you guys are kind of helping them step by step through the process.
We are, and I saw on the tagline has our 1-800 number, which is 1-800-450-4611. And ladies or family members throughout the state can call our 800 number, and we can provide them with names of our contracted providers, depending on which of the regions that they live in with DHEC, to get them into a medical home if they are in need of breast and cervical cancer screening services.
That's amazing. Now, is there, so it says, yes, so it's 21 through 64-year-olds for cervical cancer screening, and then 30 through 60-year-olds for breast cancer screening. Is that around the time that people should start getting their screenings, women?
Yes. Cervical cancer, they're finding, is being detected at a much earlier stage. And originally, back when the program started and up until this last grant cycle, the screening for cervical cancer started at age 30, but CDC found, like I said, more precancer being diagnosed, more cervical cancer, so they dropped that age down. As for breast cancer screening, we recommend the clinical breast exam starting at age 30, preferably before. But for mammograms, typically the American Cancer Society says that women ages 40 to 44 have that choice to start their annual breast mammograms if they wish to do so. It is recommended for the age bracket of 45 to 54 for women to get their mammograms every year. And then when you hit women ages 55 and older, they should switch to mammograms every 2 years or continue the annual cycle if that's what their preference is.
Right. Now, is it different if you have, you know, cancer in your family?
Yes, if you have family history or you're symptomatic, you can go to your medical provider if they're contracted with us. If not, reach out to our 800 number, the 1-800-450-4611, and we can help get our nurses involved and get you navigated in for a diagnostic mammogram. That's what we would recommend for patients that have a family history and or if they are symptomatic. Typically, like I said, screening mammograms start at 40, but we will cover if you're under 40, if you have one of those two reasons, symptomatic or family history.
Awesome. Awesome. Jane Tennis is with us with the Best Chance Network. Again, if you meet the guidelines, if you don't even know if you meet the guidelines, just log on to the website, call the toll-free number, and find out if you or someone you know meet the guidelines to get this free, amazing, needed service that is being provided to make sure you get your breast and cervical cancer screenings so that you could possibly prevent your getting cancer. I mean, if early screening, early detection is key, right, Ms. Tanner?
Absolutely. The earlier it's detected, treatment can start earlier, and you have a much better result in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jane Tennis with SCDHEC, the Cancer Division, the Best Chance Network is your opportunity to find out if you are eligible to get these free services. Even if you are not, please make sure you post and share this information. Mitchell Peace Joy Jed says great information on services available. There certainly are some great information. Hey, don't forget, scrolling at the bottom of the screen is such more great information. Not only the information we're sharing here from Ms. Tennis, but also information on COVID resources, job opportunities, and so much more. Coming up, we're going to talk to James Patrick and Dr. Damon Tweedy about getting you ready for 2022. New you in 2022. We're going to talk about making and keeping your New Year's resolutions. That's coming up next on Coping with COVID. I'm Trey Taylor.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Aiken Cockrum. I was Miss America in 1994. As a result of that, I had to learn at a very early age that it's important to take care of my health, to get enough rest, to eat a balanced diet, and to get exercise. Those are principles that I still live by today. Take a moment to visit inittogethersc.org to take an online test to find out if you're at risk of prediabetes and how to join a diabetes prevention program that takes the guesswork out of losing weight, eating better, and being more active. You can learn new ways to stay healthy and sustain those changes over time. When you join, you'll get support from a trained lifestyle coach to help you set and achieve realistic goals. Go to inittogethersc.org. Brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
Do you have a gamer on your Christmas list? Computers Unique can fill their Christmas wish. Do you have a student or designer that needs something special? Stop by Computers Unique Dutch Square Mall for all your holiday gift needs. Gaming laptops and desktops, the iMac and Mac Pro Apple laptops, plus the new curved monitors are all at Computers Unique. And with prices starting at $175, everyone can get their Christmas wish from Computers Unique Dutch Square Mall. Call 803-351-5821 for Computers Unique.
The Comet gives me a reliable source of transportation.
It's very convenient to me, and they have wonderful drivers.
It's clean, and it builds community. It's fun to meet people.
It makes me feel like really independent. It's just fun.
It's always going to be there, and it gets me everywhere I need to go.
We try to ride every single day. Comedy is our livelihood.
Hey there, In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council, the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I'm Trey Taylor. Hey, we're actually streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Please go over there, hit like and share and post, and also check out all of the great information that is on the In It Together Facebook page about diabetes prevention programs, health tips, fitness tips, and so much more. We're also streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. We are, that's the home of Coping with COVID. Please go over there, hit like and follow and share. Not only will you be able to check out Coping with COVID Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 2 p.m., but also first Monday with comedian George Wallace. We also streaming live on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Twitter. We are talking about a new you in 2022 and talking about how to make and keep your New Year's resolutions. Before we bring James Patrick on, we're going to remind you that we've got some great information scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Don't forget to check it out. Information on jobs, information on testing, information on vaccinations, information for financial resources if you might need them. So please continue to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. James Patrick joins us now as we continue to help you make and keep your New Year's resolutions. The fitness guru is a 14-year veteran in health and wellness. He's a personal trainer and former professional dancer and the owner of Aspire Wellness, where he works as a mobility specialist, massage therapist, and body contour specialist. Thank you so much for joining us, James.
So good to be here. Thank you for having me, Trey.
Absolutely, absolutely. I hate to do this to you in the middle of this. Can you turn your
Turn it.
Yeah, can you? We want to see. There you go. See?
There I go.
Fill up the screen, all beautiful.
Yeah, there I am.
There you go. So listen, we're talking about a new you in 2022 and trying to get people ready for New Year's and their New Year resolutions. How can people, first of all, make attainable fitness goals? I know you do more than fitness, and we'll talk about that. But how do you make an attainable goal? Because I think sometimes we think we're going to do this grandiose thing, and it's too much.
It's way too much. You're exactly right, Trey. And oftentimes, most people that come to me initially are coming to me because they feel a sense of extreme urgency. And oftentimes, when we commit to things and we're in a state of urgency, that urgency ends up wearing off at some point, right? And also, so does our commitment. So
Yeah.
we have to keep a proper frame of mind. So what we've done at Aspire Wellness is implemented mental health by adding a psychologist on our staff. So she works as a wellness consultant, and she's one half of who you first meet when you come into the gym. And oftentimes we start off with big, grandiose plans, Trey, and those plans don't ever come to fruition because we don't have all the specifics intact. We don't have a plan. We just know what we want to see. But we oftentimes forget that between A and Z are a lot of other letters. So we need to fill in the gaps. So that's
There's
why
no
people
more
like
letters
me.
between A and B.
It's no such thing as nothing but A and Z, Trey. That's it.
Oh, I thought you said A and B. I thought you said there were more letters between A and B. I was like, what's letter?
What letters are we talking about? Yes.
There are.
I love it. I love it. But creating a plan, Trey, is so
Right.
important, and that's why we have fitness professionals like ourselves here. But when I tell people to start with a plan, I'm talking about starting on what you're going to do today. Don't worry
Right.
about the next 6 months. Don't worry about the next 90 days. Let's start with today, and how can we impact today and make it as productive and as positive and as impactful as possible?
Well, you know what, James? I love what you're saying, and I love that you have a psychologist on staff because
Hmm.
if Dr. Damon Tweedy was going to join us and he had some technical difficulties because I was going to talk to him about the mental aspect of making a decision and sticking with it because you've got to have it here first.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it plays such a large factor in your success and failure. And oftentimes we don't really include our mental health because we think that when we equate mental health to something, it's equated to mental illness. But
Yeah.
mental health is your wealth. Knowing your mental health, no matter what state you're in, good or bad or indifferent, knowing where you stand, understanding what your body needs, because most of the time our body is eating what our mind feeds it. So we try to get our clients in the right frame of mind. And that's what I impose on all of my clients. Get yourself in the right frame of mind and understand where you are in terms of mental health. You wouldn't be surprised how many people come to see me in the midst of a mental health crisis because they think that finding a trainer is going to give them autonomy over that specific area of their life. And that's not exactly, while it is imperative that you find an accountability coach, we also need to create a space for mental health and mental awareness and conversations like that to exist on a regular basis.
Right. So what's the first thing you need to do? So when you are thinking about, because now is the time people should maybe be thinking about what they want to achieve next year. So you're saying what? First of all, start with what you want to achieve January 1st.
Yeah, what we want to do first, Trey, is create a plan of action. Why are we even here? What
Right.
brought us here? And oftentimes, when we don't put the dots together on why we're even here and what brought us to this place, when you don't know where you're going, when you don't know where you came from, you
Yeah.
can't know where you're
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And that's mainly where we're getting to, making sure that you understand where you came from because your story makes a big difference in your success and your failure. So it's important to create inventory and understand where we came from so we can create a space to understand where we want to go.
Right. So when what would the psychologist tell us? Just are we what resolving our issues of the past? Are we setting realistic things? I mean, what's the psychology behind making sure we make and keep? Because the keep is the thing. We can make a great resolution. It's just keeping it 15 days
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, at 15 to 20 days later, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 2 weeks from now, are you still going to be committed to it? So what we
Or
tend to
Valentine's Day when all the chocolate's on the shelf.
let's talk about January 31st when you're tired.
Yes.
So what we first encourage, and while I can't necessarily speak from a psychologist's point of view, I can speak from a clinical standpoint in saying that what we want to do is create smart goals, and those
Yeah.
smart goals basically help us to create tangible, long-term and short-term goals. And when we create those smart goals, we're setting ourselves up for success because we're explaining to ourselves what we're going to do, the plan at which how we're going to get there, and the progress. So understanding your progress. And oftentimes we equate progress to how much weight we've lost when that's not it. How we feel is the first step in progression. So
Gotcha.
how you feel, how does your body feel? Are you sleeping better? Do you have a better mood? Are you better at work? Are you more productive? That is progress. Progress isn't depicted on how much weight we've lost, how much body fat we've lost. And I'll tell you this, Trey, as often as we stress over our bodies, it creates a bad space for a place of health. Our bodies hear everything that our mind that we're feeding it. So when we talk down about ourselves, when we talk about our big old thighs, when I hear women talk about their thighs and their bodies, I have to implement a positive note in there too. Yeah, you've got thighs, but girl, those thighs hold you up all day long. That's and creating a positive headspace is one of the biggest ways to creating progression. Progression starts with how we feel, not how we look.
Yeah, I mean, again, so many great nuggets here. Don't look at how because your body is going to change slowly. But
Hmm.
is your blood pressure down? Is your
Yeah,
sugar intake, down? Are you
yeah,
feeling better? Are you able to walk more than you
that's it.
were at the beginning?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Those are the things that make such a big uh, can create such a big turning point for us in how we perceive ourselves and perceive our bodies. And when we create those smart goals with ourselves or with a coach or with a therapist or whomever, we're setting ourselves up for success and we're setting ourselves up for a planned success. So we're making those necessary steps to get that much more on track and stay there this time next year and the year after that.
Yeah. Do you think another good practice is to journal or at least write down not as many maybe your goals, but what you have accomplished? Like today, I walked a block, or tomorrow I didn't eat 5 chocolate chip cookies. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? Journaling is so therapeutic, and I'm going to speak from a personal standpoint because I've always told my clients to journal. Like I've always been, you need to write it down, and I wasn't doing it myself.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest, I was looking at one of my favorite rappers is a guy named Big Sean. So he's real positive, and he writes a lot of affirmations. And he was showing us his journal, and in my journal, I started saying the things that I was grateful for, and it was just bullet points.
Yeah.
But he encouraged his audience to start to expound on why you're grateful for that. What made you grateful? What were
Right.
the steps that brought you to that place of gratitude? And so journaling is so important. And I find that the more that I write, the more that I'm able to free my mind and make space for other things like taking care of my clients and taking care of myself and being a better business owner and a better entrepreneur. So yes, journaling is such a good first step for you. If you're not used to journaling, listen, put it in your notes in your phone. If you don't have a journal, you don't like to write, but it's important to be able to look back at something to see this time last year, this is where I was. And
Yeah.
now this is where I'm at 12 calendar months later.
12, yeah, I mean, look, 30, 12 calendar days later. You know what I mean? The
Yeah,
and I love that. And you're right. A lot of people don't like to write, but whatever works for you, if you need to write it in your phone, like you say, if you need to get one of those big calendars and just write something, a little something every day, it's hard
absolutely.
to see how much you have progressed because
Yeah,
of life. Everything is getting in the way, and if you
yeah.
looking at yourself, you may not recognize that. So I love
Hmm.
that. Yeah. What about affirmations? You talked about affirmations. Tell us a little bit about how you think affirmations play into making and keeping your New Year's resolutions.
Listen, what I know about affirmations in the simplest form is that when I say it and I say it with conviction and I say it from a place of authenticity, it's breathing life into something. Affirmations breathe life into what we're talking about. And when we affirm to ourselves that we are not our weight, when we affirm to ourselves that we're not our cellulite, when we affirm to ourselves that we are a whole entire being that is way more important than what the scale says or what society even says, when we affirm those things to ourselves on a regular basis, we are feeding our minds and we're feeding our bodies. And if we want to get technical and scientific with it, creating a place of stress creates more inflammation in your body. So when you stress yourself out, even about your own weight, you create inflammation in your body. And when your body takes on more inflammation, you have a hormonal imbalance, you're not eating correctly. All these things, you become more dehydrated because you're stressed. Stress can lead to dehydration, which leads to inflammation,
Wow.
which makes it that much harder to lose weight or even find a focal point of progression. So affirmations on a regular basis, and you don't have to light a incense and a candle and get your Paleo Santo out. You can
Right.
literally be driving in the car and affirm to yourself, Trey.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think some good affirmations are? What should we be affirming? Is it what we wish or what we are or both?
Well, you said it. You just said it. It's about where you are, what you are, and also connecting where you are to where you want to be, not where you wish you were.
Right.
Because oftentimes that can imply that you're not really even settled or happy with who you are, or what's going on. And what do we say all the time? We can't control everything. You
Right.
can't control, the cellulite today. You can't make it all go away. But what we can do is control how we feel about our bodies right now. And if we control and focus ourselves on the right now in the present, being present with your mind, being present with your body, being present with your spirit, that is a state of progression. And whether you can see it or not right then and there isn't the biggest problem. It's, are you affirming and do you believe what you're affirming to yourself? So things like, I'm going to work out today, or things like, I'm going to kick that workout's butt today, or you know what? I said I wasn't going to go walk this afternoon after work, but you know what? I'm going to get that 1 mile in. You have to literally say it out loud in the car to yourself to believe and understand, to make that affirmation have life.
Yeah. James Patrick joins us. He is with Aspire Wellness. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Aspire, James.
Oh my gosh! So we had a big overhaul this past couple of months. Beautiful overhaul. We've been in a great transition. Aspire offers mobility. We offer functionality. We're not really your average gym. We do a lot of mobility. I'm an exercise therapy specialist, so I specialize in helping people with body imbalances, chronic inflammation, joint issues. That's my thing. Aside from that, we offer body contouring, which is a form of body sculpting. We do a lot of fatty tissue manipulation. So for those of you that are a little against invasive surgery, we offer a non-invasive option for those who are looking to make some aesthetic changes while still keeping the positivity in front of ourselves, because we're not who we are when we get off that table. We're still who we are. We're still the same person. We offer massage therapy. We offer group fitness and personal training. So if any of those services are things that you need, we want to see you. We want to see you succeed, and we want to see you aspire to be your best self.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we would love to have you back on with your therapist, with your in-house therapist. If not the end of this month, definitely the 1st of January, so we can get people ready, because mindset change is so important. Making sure and we've talked about this over and over again. I was talking to Regina Peters earlier today, and there's some sisters in Lake City that do something with young girls, and we've all said the same thing. You have first got to recognize that you are worth it, that you can do this, that you can get up a little earlier and walk, that you can go up and down the stairs, that you are worthy to do it, that you have to love you better than you love barbecue potato chips. And I'm talking to
Absolutely. 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 It's about a perspective shift. It's a perspective shift. And you know what I've learned is that my perspective shift is allowed to change.
Yes.
You are allowed to change your perspective shift. And in actuality, it's healthy to do so. So continue to change that perspective, and you'll continue to matriculate and progress into the person that you've aspired to be.
Yeah, and it is attainable. It is
Yeah.
attainable. And there are people just like James Patrick and others that are here to help you. Again, contact James Patrick at Aspire Wellness. You can see his email address, website, Facebook page, and IG for more information. As always, James, before we let you go, I know you had your big event last week. Any other events coming up?
Yeah, well, we've actually partnered with Tamika Isaac Divine on Peace Love Sweat. Peace Love Sweat is an organization that I've been pushing for the past 6 months. It's a grassroots initiative, and what we do is push mental wellness and movement. So we're pushing mental wellness, mental health education, and exercise, tying it all into one. We just finished our last event for the year this past weekend. We worked partnered with Harvest Hope Food Bank, and we have our upcoming event January 29th, and that's going to be the first event of the year. And it's Peace, Love, Sweat. We're so happy to come back to Madison Fitness Facility, which is located right across the bridge. We had an amazing time, and we're going to go ahead and do it all over again. So I hope to see you guys out there January 29th.
Absolutely. And please let me know how I can help. I would love to help or be a partner or something, because I think we can do it. We just have to work together to get it done for people.
That's
All
it.
right. James Patrick, thank you again so much for joining us. Again, don't forget to contact him for more information for Aspire Wellness. And James, if we don't see you and we will see you on January 29th, I want you to come back before then to talk more about mindset change and more about your event at the end of January.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to. Love you, Trey. Thank you.
Darling. Love you too. I appreciate you so much. We're going to come back right now with Dr. Jane Kelly. We opened up the show earlier talking to Dr. Jane Kelly. She is the DHEC's assistant epidemiologist. Just wrapping up, I guess, the news conference, Dr. Kelly, that DHEC had at 2:00, announcing that 3 cases of the Omicron variant have been detected in South Carolina. Just give us a brief update on what we need to know.
Sure. I think the key things to know is that this Omicron variant spreads more quickly. It is more contagious. However, there's no evidence that it causes more severe disease, at least not at this time. This is still preliminary, trying to collect a lot of information. But the fact that it spreads more easily, even if it doesn't on average cause more severe disease, it will mean we would have more people in the hospital. And those individuals most at risk are people who are older adults. And when I say older adults, I'm talking older than 50. This variant is more likely to infect people. It spreads more easily. But there is something that we can do. Vaccine is likely a little less effective in preventing infection than it was with the Delta variant. However, it is effective in preventing severe disease. And the recommendation now is that get your booster. If you're fully vaccinated, you got your 2-dose series of Pfizer or Moderna vaccines, or 2 doses with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, get a booster. Get your booster 6 months after you got that full vaccination, because the booster will make a difference with the Omicron. How do we know that? We know that 2 ways. We know that through studies in South Africa, where it's been circulating longer. And we also know from some laboratory studies where they were looking at, in the test tube, what happens to antibody levels. They shoot up even against neutralizing antibodies against the Omicron variant after that booster.
Right. And what do we need to do moving forward? We're in the smack dab in the middle of the holidays, coming up on the new year. What do we need to know?
That you're right. We're in a tough situation. We're in the holidays with a variant that spreads very quickly. Certainly, if you are sick, don't put yourself and others at risk. If you are sick, don't travel. Even if it's not COVID, if you've got the flu, you don't want to spread that, or any other respiratory illness. You don't want to spread that to others. And if you can consider not traveling this holiday and doing this holiday a little bit different, that would be helpful to help control the spread of not only COVID, but other respiratory viruses. We're a little bit worried about flu. We're starting to see our number of flu cases tick up as well. If you are getting together, though, with non-household members. Take some steps to try and make that to lower the risk as much as you can. You all know the usual routine about keeping distance, wearing a mask, outside safer than inside, but also think about getting tested. Now, if you're going to get tested at a DHEC site before a holiday gathering, we recommend getting tested by December 19th, no later than December 19th, to make sure you have those results in time before you get together with others. But rapid tests are good also. You can purchase a rapid test at your local drugstore or order them online. Those rapid tests are not as accurate as the PCR tests, but they're pretty good. And if you have no symptoms, consider getting tested the day before or even the day of a get-together to make sure that you are not carrying the virus.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Jane Kelly, Assistant Epidemiologist with the SCDHEC. We appreciate you so much, not only for coming on and sharing this information, for all of the work that you've been doing. Have you worked harder in these last 2 years than you ever have before?
Well, then there was internship. Internship was pretty stressful.
There was medical school, right? Dr. Kelly, thank you again so much for joining us today on
Thank you for getting the word out. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So listen, if you have a story or initiative that can help someone cope with COVID, please email booking at copingwithtreytaylor@gmail.com. You should see that information scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We would love to feature you or your story or initiative here on the show. If you have a product or service that can help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtreytaylor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like SCDHEC, In It Together SC, and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Also want to thank our sponsors, Javis Tax Services, Palmetto Media Connections, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, also Agape Counseling and Training Services, Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall, the Comet Bus System, and Black Pages, Black Expo, plus Palmetto Painting Services. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk about lessons learned. Some former candidates talk about what they have learned from their recent elections and what's next for them. Tomorrow, we'll talk to Heather Bauer, Jim Manning, and Hamilton Jacobs. And then on Friday, we will talk to former mayoral candidate Tamika Isaac Devine, also Tyler Bailey, and Deetra Stover. It's our series on lessons learned, their reflections of their candidacy, and also what's next for them. As always, I leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling. It's December 15th, 10 days before Santa Claus comes to town, if you believe in that. And so this is what Jesus is telling you. It says, your longing for heaven is good because it is an extension of you yearning for me. The hope of heaven is meant to strengthen and encourage you, filling you with wondrous joy. Many Christians, Jesus says, have misunderstood this word hope, believing that it denotes wishful thinking. Nothing could be farther from the truth. As soon as I became your savior, heaven became your ultimate destination. The phrase hope of heaven highlights the benefits you can enjoy even while being here on earth. This hope helps you spiritually alive during dark times of adversity. It brightens your path and heightens your awareness of my presence. My desire, Jesus says, is that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. That's your Jesus Calling for today, December 15th. I'm Trey Taylor. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. I want to say hi to Whitney Cook, who's watching on YouTube. We appreciate you so much. We wish you peace, joy, blessings. Please be careful. Please stay safe, as Dr. Kelly said. Please get your shot or your booster. And don't forget to wear your mask still over your nose and under your chin. We'll see you tomorrow on Coping.
Coping with COVID and In It Together SC present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Trey Taylor.